Good day to you. Hi guys, lesson for today is the role of government, chapter number 24. So it is important for you to know the role of government in a country or in an economy. So let me explain to you what do we mean by the role of government. But before that, you must know the other name of the government. So the other name of the government is what we sometimes we used to call them as the public sector or the state sector. Okay, government or public sector or state sector. So in this chapter we're going to learn about the role of government as an employer, the role of government as a producer, okay, and why it is important for the government to intervene, or in other words, the government intervention. Okay, the government intervention in an economy, why we need a government basically. All right, so this is what we're going to discuss in this chapter. So instruction for students, firstly you have to read chapter 24 page 215 to 217. Next, watch my video presentation on lesson 3, the role of government, chapter 24. Watch a short video on the YouTube, link provided here. Please do up all your questions given to you here. So learning objective, by end of this lesson you should be able to describe the role of government locally, nationally and internationally, as well as the role of government as an employer, the role of government as a producer, okay, and the government intervention, why we need government and in what circumstances we need the government to be there. Okay, so all this you must know, it is important. So introduction, before I introduce the chapter, I would like to do a quick recap on what we learned in our previous lessons. So we learned 3 different types of economic system, okay, which is the planned economic system, market economic system and mixed economic system. So if you recall, planned economic system is an economy with government alone without a private sector. Meaning to say an economy is fully controlled by the government, there is no role for the private sector. That is planned economic system, number 1. Number 2 is the market economic system. Market economic system is the other extreme, where there is no role for the government. It's fully owned by the private sector. A country fully controlled by the private sector with the price mechanism for the resource allocation. Whereas in the planned economic system, the resource allocation is mainly by the government directives. Here is fully private sector, which is in the market economic system. There's no role for the government, no or little intervention, very minimal intervention, government intervention in the market economic system. The third economic system is the mixed economic system. Okay, the role of government will come in mainly on the mixed economic system. So mixed economic system has the both attributes of the planned economic system as well as the market economic system. Alright, so therefore government plays a very important role, a significant role in what? In solving 2 things. Number 1, to solve the basic economic problems exist in an economy. Number 2 is on the resource allocation. Okay, so resource allocation is the role of, who plays important role in the resource allocation? 2 parties, two people or 2 parties. Number 1 is the price mechanism in the mixed economic system, price mechanism as well as the government directives, okay, in the resource allocation in the mixed economy, right, the mixed economic system. So however, the level of government intervention, it depends on to what extent the market fails. So market failure also we already studied in chapter 15. So chapter 15 is section 2 if not mistaken. So market failure, we must do the recap on the market failure. Okay, market failure, mainly we're talking about the externalities, okay, negative externalities or the social cost exceeds the social benefit. Okay, next is the second point. The level of government intervention depends on the effectiveness of the government policy measures in addressing the economic problem in a country. Okay, so these are two things. So scope of the public sector or the scope of the government. What do you mean by government? If anyone asks you what do you mean by government, government means the scope. Here this I'm highlighting the scope. If you look at the scope of the government can be the local authority, government can be the state government, government can be the federal government. So these are the scope of the government, the scope of the public sector. So locally government can be the local authorities, like for example MPK, Majlis Perbandaran Kelang. So MPK is one good example of what local authorities at the district level. Okay, so the role of the scope of the government at the district level, at the state level, as well as the entire country at the federal level. Okay, so local authority who manages refuse collection, housing, and also local roads at the district level. Next, the state government which manages the resources within the state level. The third scope is the federal government which is responsible for the entire economy, entire country. So this will be the scope of the public sector. So next, basis and forms of government intervention. Why government need to interfere, or why there is a government intervention, is because of what? Few issues, few problems. Okay, the first problem, there are 4 problems I've highlighted in this lesson. The first problem is the provision of public good and merit good. Okay, so we have to go back to the market economic system. In market economic system, public goods are not provided. Number 1. Number 2, merit goods are underproduced. Okay, so which causing market failure. So these are 2 things that you have to really remember on the why we need the government, why there is a government intervention, is because of the provision of the public good and also the underproduction of the merit goods. So what do you mean by public goods? Define public goods. Public goods mean those goods produced by the public sector, by the government. Those goods were produced by the public goods. Private sectors are not interested in producing public goods such as street lights, law and order, government hospital, government schools and all that. The private sectors, they are not interested to produce all this because these are not profitable, non-profitable. So private sectors, they produce private goods or economic goods. Okay, so public goods are not provided in the market economic system because absence of the public sector. There's no public sector in the market economic system. That is number 1. Number 2 is the merit goods are underproduced. So what's the problem if merit goods are underproduced? Okay, so when merit goods are underproduced, what will happen? The demand for merit goods will be higher than the supply. Meaning to say, we can say market demand is greater than the market supply for the merit goods. So what are merit goods? Example of merit goods such as education, healthcare. Right? So when the market demand is greater than the market supply, what will happen to the price? So the price gets higher for the merit goods. Okay, so merit goods become more expensive. So not everybody can enjoy merit goods, which is important. Okay, so therefore we need government to take the responsibility to supply more merit goods to ensure there's enough production of the merit goods and provision, as well as the provision of the public goods. So that's the first issue here. The second issue is the market failures is what existence of the externalities, negative externalities and social costs. Okay, social costs or externalities, negative externalities, external costs we call it, externalities such as the pollution, traffic congestion, which have very adverse effect towards the economy and the society. Okay, so we need the government to control negative externalities, or the external costs towards the economy by imposing taxation and regulation. So let's zoom into the market failure. So this diagram is a very interesting diagram that I got it from the internet. Okay, if you've forgotten about the market failure, please just take a look at this diagram itself. It can give you the full idea. If you have this one picture, this picture itself can give you all the points for the market failure. For example, if you take a look at these externalities here, so there are what existent market failure can happen because of the existence of the externalities. Externalities, positive and negative externalities. Of course, the negative externalities are greater than the positive externalities, causing social cost to be greater than the social benefits. So this is the sub-factor of the market failure. Number one. Number two, you can see the demerit goods and the merit goods. Merit goods versus demerit goods. Merit goods such as the healthcare and also the education were underproduction of the merit good mainly. And also you can see the demerit goods are overly produced, like tobaccos, drugs and alcohol. So all these we need the government to come and control on the demerit goods, so to reduce the overproduction of the demerit goods and to increase the production of the merit goods. So third thing is the public goods. So if you remember, the three important points is good enough. Just stick with the externalities, merit and demerit goods, plus the third one is the public goods under the market failure. So all these sub factors causing market failure in economy, we need the government to come in and solve the problem of what market failure. Next, let's continue with the basis and forms of the government intervention, or in other words, why we need the government intervention. Why we need the government to come in, intervene, is because of the abuse of the monopoly power. If you look at the word monopoly, means mono means single, poly means seller, a single company monopolizing the entire industry, sometimes the entire country. Okay, so what these monopoly firms tend to do is they like to cut down the production and increase the price of their products in order to make what supernormal profits. Okay, so we need the government to come in and implement the price control such as the maximum price to help the consumers. So the role of government to implement price controls also we have studied in the earlier chapters. So it's important for you to recall all that, no? So we studied two types of price controls, maximum price and minimum price. So for the maximum price will benefit the consumers. So in this case, the implementation of maximum price towards the monopoly products is important. Okay, therefore we need the government to come into the picture. So the fourth problem is what? Income inequality, where rich gets richer, poor get poorer. The gap between rich and poor will be widened. So we need the government to solve this by implementing income redistribution policies, by using taxation, okay, by taxing the rich group, okay, by collecting tax from the rich and redistribute it to the poor in the form of what? Financial aid, subsidy, free education and what? Healthcare benefits, in order to narrow down the gap between the rich and poor. Okay, this is to achieve the economic stability. Next, the role of the government as a producer. So one good example is the provision of the public goods. The government produce the public goods or public utilities. Public utilities include electricity, water and public transportation. Okay, and these are basic needs. Okay, these are very important goods. Public utilities is important for everyone in the society, in a country. Therefore, these services should be provided at a lower price, affordable price, with higher quantity to benefit the entire society. So if these utilities are monopolized by the monopoly firms, is going to create a market failure. So often these services are managed by the public corporation, which are natural monopolies. So for example, hydroelectric power in Malaysia, TNB is the only company which are producing electricity. Okay, so therefore, so we need the government to come in and set a maximum price, so that this will force the monopoly firms to produce in a big scale, where they can achieve the economies of scale and achieve the lowest cost and charge lower prices to the society. Next will be the strategic industry. So this is a very important industry. So in economics, you'll study 3 different industries, which is important industries. Number 1 is the sunrise industries. Number 2 is the sunset industry. The third thing is strategic industry. So all these 3 types of industry we will study later in later chapters. Okay, so for now, please try to remember strategic industries. Strategic industry means, let me give you an example. 2 examples of the strategic industry for you to easily remember it. So the first industry under the strategic industries is the food industry. The second one is the defense industry. Okay, government call these 2 industries as a strategic industry because they don't want to rely on foreign countries. They don't want to rely on imports of food supplies and also national defense. Okay, so no matter how costly it can be to be produced locally, the government still will produce locally, although it can be imported, but the government discourage import or dependency on the foreign countries on in these 2 industries. Okay, so in many countries, food production is often managed by the government, state-owned agencies, to make sure enough food supplies to meet the domestic needs. Okay, so although it is not cost effective, the government continue to support to ensure the social needs of the economy are met. So another strategic industry is the defense sector. Like nuclear power, some countries, some poor countries in East Asia, like India and Pakistan, allocates lots of resources to this sector for defense strategy reasons. Okay, so please try to remember the strategic industries. Next, a partnership between private and public sector. Private sector and public sector collaborate in construction industries, construction of roads, buildings, highways, and their maintenance. Okay, mainly on the construction of highways, of buildings. Okay, where the public sector used to collaborate with the private sector by giving tenders, government tenders and all that. So for example, these industries are financed, managed and maintained by the private sector for some time. At the expiry of the contract period, upon the expiry of the contract period, the private sector will hand over to the government. For example, Plus and also Casas. Next is the role of government as an employer. Besides private sector, the government also act as the employer by offering jobs or creating job opportunities to the society, to the economy. Okay, for example, Malaysia is a good example of a mixed economy. So in Malaysia, roughly about 1.6 million civil servants are engaged in public sector employment, which forms Malaysian government as the largest employer in the country. So next will be the government's role at the international level. At the international level, government always encourages exports and restricts imports. Why? Because they want to achieve a surplus in the balance of payments, at least a balanced balance of payment. The government not interested in achieving deficit in balance of payment. This is going to create a number of issues and some adverse impact to the economy. So like how do the government encourages export is by providing tax incentives and also subsidies to the local producers. Secondly, by restricting imports, okay, by implementing trade barriers such as tariffs, quotas, and some exchange controls and provision of subsidies to the local producers. Okay, so mainly like tariff or import taxes or custom duty is called what we call as the tariffs. So tariffs will increase the prices of import, will make imports costly, hence only fewer goods are being imported into the country. So this is simply to achieve a positive trade balance or surplus in the trade balance or balance of trade. All right, so next, multinational companies. Okay, so governments also encourages setups of the multinational companies, which will bring foreign investment, which will create more jobs and improve the economic growth. So these are at the international level, the government also will at the international level, government also involved in what trading blocks, or by having number of trading partners. So these are the few good examples. We will learn about trade blocks, international specialization and international trade further in later chapters. For now, you can refer to some examples of the existing trading blocks. The most famous trading block or the pioneer trading bloc is the European Union, EU, among the European countries. This followed by the North American Free Trade Area, as well as the Southeast Asian countries, ASEAN. ASEAN is the trading bloc. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.